Captain Marvel is a superhero that has a long and storied past within Marvel's various universes, but somehow never actually made it into the cinematic universe, until now. In less than a month, Brie Larson will be making her debut as Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. The spacefaring, laser beam shooting, cat-loving jet pilot will bring us back to 1995 in the MCU, giving us a glimpse at not just Captain Marvel herself, but Nick Fury and even Phil Coulson. It goes without saying, there are some major spoilers in this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can come back after you've watched Marvel's newest movie. With all that out of the way, let's get into this flirkin' video already. Captain Marvel saw her first official appearance in the MCU in the post-credits stinger for Avengers: Infinity War. We see Nick Fury watch his partner Maria Hill vanish, prompting him to rush back to the car and grab a pager from his bag. As he starts to vanish himself, the pager falls, showing a signal that a message is being sent. The screen flashes a few times as we anxiously await the results, and we see the iconic blue and red with a gold star logo. The same one that Captain Marvel adorns on her chest in one of her several distinct and iconic suits. As we start to explore where Captain Marvel comes from, things get a little confusing. We did warn you she has a long and storied past. Let's dive right into a quick Captain Marvel history lesson. Carol Danvers, at least in the comics, wasn't always Captain Marvel, and it technically wasn't a wholly original name either. In fact, it's based off the Kree military captain, Mar-Vell. Our first appearance of a Kree was Ronan, the Accuser. Now, if you didn't figure it out, the Kree aren't inherently a bad species. Ronan was just really crazy. He was also a member of Star Force in the comics, but we'll get to them later. Mar-Vell was the first Captain Marvel created by the late Stan Lee and Gene Colan, debuting in Marvel Superheroes number 12. Carol Danvers was introduced in the next issue, Marvel Superheroes number 13, but introduced as Ms. Marvel. The title of Captain Marvel wouldn't actually be passed down to Carol until about 2012 in the comics. Instead, Captain Marvel was a title held by 5 different beings from the 1960s up until now. Instead, in the Ms. Marvel universe, we see Carol Danvers take on almost all the powers and adventures we see in the upcoming movie. Before blasting her way through space, Carol Danvers was just your normal, everyday Air Force pilot / NASA astronaut / espionage expert. Whew. After joining the Air Force at the young age of 18, Carol quickly rose to the top of her ranks and earned her wings. Afterwards, Carol was recruited by NASA as a security officer, intending to investigate reports of otherworldly beings attempting to infiltrate and disrupt the American space program. These beings would happen to both be the Kree and the Skrulls, the two of which don't really get along, being embroiled in a years-long war which happens to be a major plot point for the Captain Marvel film. Alright, now to bring it all back to Mar-Vell. Carol obtains her powers during a battle between Mar-Vell and his rival, Yon-Rogg. Carol finds herself exposed to a Kree device called the Psych Magnetron that can turn imagination into reality. The device literally rewrote her DNA to give her human Kree superpowers. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we might see a different but similar origin story, one that sort of accelerates her ascendance to superhuman. But all these details about her comic-based origin end up still being important. In the trailers for Captain Marvel, we see 2 distinct eras of Carol Danvers, each era represented by the suit she wears. The first being the black Star Force suit, the next was her Mohawk suit with the red, blue, and gold. Interestingly enough, that suit design was actually created from a bet by legendary artist Jamie McKelvey, and is one of the biggest reasons we're getting a Captain Marvel movie at all. In the Star Force, Carol Danvers is trained to be in an elite team of warriors created to defend the Kree Empire. Her powers are molded, honed, and controlled before she loses them entirely, we assume. In the comics, Captain Marvel has a history of being a little bit too powerful. There are times when she exerts herself so much that her powers are lost entirely for a time being. It could be possible this is why we see her crashing into our favorite video store of eons past, Blockbuster, in the trailers. Ah, Blockbuster. Captain Marvel's primary ability, though, is energy absorption and manipulation. By harnessing the powers the Kree have so graciously gifted her, Captain Marvel can intake the cosmic powers around her and focus them into photon blasts. These photon blasts seem to be the cornerstone. Although not every Kree has this ability, Mar-Vell also has seemingly identical powers to Carol Danvers. It was thought that Jude Law would be playing Mar-Vell, but recent theories suggest he is actually playing his nemesis, Yon-Rogg. Additionally, in both the comics and the movies, there seems to be a recurring theme with Carol, though. Despite having a seventh sense or precognitive awareness, Carol struggles with her own personality, both past and present. It's quite ironic that a person that is unnaturally aware of the cosmos around her would have no clue of what's going on inside of her. The movie seemingly focuses on Carol discovering her past identity, the human identity. In the comics, she also has the ability to travel unhindered through space, which we've also seen in the trailers, but beyond that, she might not have the truly unreal powers she has in the comic series. Some of these powers include gravitational manipulation, telekinesis, teleportation, and even full-on regeneration. This power specifically might come in handy in Endgame, too. There are some rumors and theories circling around that Captain Marvel is inside the quantum realm, the same realm that Janet Van Dyne found herself inside. In the trailers, we get some of the best shots of Captain Marvel in action in her Mohawk costume. Even though she was technically at her peak in the Star Force costume, it seems she could be going on an unhinged rage after discovering her past, thus transferring costumes. This would make sense, given that while fighting on Earth in the Star Force costume, she seems lost and confused. While in the Mohawk costume, Carol shows off more than just a casual blast to a jukebox. She shows raw, pinpointed power. The photon blasts in these fight scenes seems more powerful and almost vengeful. By discovering her human identity, Captain Marvel might take on an entirely new level of power. And in the end, being human might be her best superpower. No matter what suit she wears or what she's been through, being human is going to be one of her biggest strengths. Although it's not exactly a superpower of hers, there could be a completely unexpected source of strength for Captain Marvel in this upcoming film. Goose. No, not an actual goose. Not Goose from Top Gun either, although that's seemingly who this character is named after. I'm talking about Carol's cute little tabby cat we see Nick Fury trying to play with at the end of the trailer. Goose, or otherwise known in the comics, Chewie, is more than just a typical house cat. Goose is a flurkin. See what I did at the beginning of the video? Now, I suppose some of you might be pointing out that there's no way Goose is a flurkin, given they changed his name. You might be right, but Hasbro recently dropped the ball and revealed two new Captain Marvel toys, one being an unassuming Nick Fury, and the other is Goose. The kicker is that Goose isn't just a simple plastic cat figurine. This toy features Goose in chains and a muzzle. Quite creepy for what's supposed to be a children's toy. I find it a little hard to think that Hasbro would be making a toy straight out of the comics for a movie, especially considering the cat has made its way into the Captain Marvel poster. In the Captain Marvel number 13, Goose, or Chewie for that matter, has found himself in a pickle with the captors spouting off all the wondrous things a flurkin can do. The biggest of which would be that a flurkin can hold pocket universes inside of itself, much like a living, breathing TARDIS of sorts. Being that it can hold any number of universes or realities inside of itself, Goose could be an integral key of defeating Thanos when Avengers Endgame releases. While we can't say for sure how that would happen, it certainly opens up millions of possibilities, maybe even 14,605 possibilities. It would be a complete stretch to say that Goose is a main plot point for both Captain Marvel and Endgame, but we can't help but wonder why Marvel is including the alien cat in so much of its promotional materials. Although Goose probably won't play a huge role in Captain Marvel, in the most recent comics released in 2012, Chewie does feature a handful of pages in the comics. He might seem like a wholly unimportant character, but he truly does open a lot of doors, both in the comics and in the movies. Anyways, back to Carol herself. It is worth noting that while Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Inhumans aren't Marvel's flagship shows, a considerable amount of world building went into them regards to the Kree, and partially how Captain Marvel came to be in the comics. Both shows dive into the Kree's vast knowledge of fantastical genetic engineering, but without spoiling too much, help bring back a fan-favorite character in the universe. The same technology that made this is presumably how Carol Danvers becomes Captain Marvel in the movie. Although the Kree are vastly technologically superior, hence why Carol has the incredible abilities that she has. If you haven't watched either yet, I guess you'll have to watch to find out. If you're interested in catching up with the Captain Marvel universe ahead of the release of the movie itself, they might be worth the watch, but don't expect too many spoilers. With that all being said, Captain Marvel really is one of the most versatile heroes within the MCU. She has an almost endless amount of possibilities when it comes to screenplay and story. Although, it's not too surprising that Marvel has kept her out of the MCU for so long. Given her powers, she could have been a sort of ringer for the Infinity War arc. Captain Marvel flies into theaters shortly, but we can't help but fixate on all the awesome things Marvel could do with this character. Being that Captain Marvel is deeply embedded in the multitudes of franchises like Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Avengers in the comics, it's not unthinkable that she could be a big part of the cinematic universe in the near future. Do you think that Captain Marvel will debut even more powers than the trailers have shown us? What about Chewie? Do you think the cat will be the key to defeating the Mad Titan, or is he just a cute little cat? Let us know by dropping a comment below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest content from behind the screen.